Hello Darlink, the show that brings you guests who make a difference in our lives and help to make our world a better place. Today, my guest on Hello Darlink is Liam Cubbage, the CEO of Mates in Construction WA. Mates in Construction WA operates as non-for-profit, non-government suicide prevention charity within the Western Australian construction industry. I will speak to Liam today about the important work this organization is doing on mental health and suicide prevention in the workplace. Hello, darling.
Hello, darling. How are you?
Welcome to my show, and thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Liam, why is suicide amongst workers in construction industry so prevalent? I was reading some statistics which are pretty alarming and shocking. I believe about 190 men a year in construction industry will die of suicide.
Yeah, that's correct.
Which takes every second day we're losing a worker to suicide. I believe that the suicide rate amongst construction workers are almost 2.5 times higher than any other industry, and then suicide amongst construction industry became part of life. How is it possible?
Well, there's a lot of different contributing factors to the statistics around suicide in the construction industry. Some of them have to do with the workplace environment, things like long working hours and a FIFO industry where people spend significant time away from their support structures or their families or their loved ones. It's also a male-dominated industry, which isn't conducive to having conversations about mental health in general. There's still a stigma around the industry and among men that talking about what's going on for you and your mental health or your life issues or even your thoughts of suicide is something that might make you appear weak or lesser than your co-worker. So that stigma is still very, very much entrenched within the industry and part of the male-dominated culture that's there. There's also a fairly difficult structure around support services in that industry, accessing them and getting people to ask for help rather than offering those helps along the way.
And yet your motto is, suicide is everyone's business. How do you walk this mission statement?
Yeah, so that's absolutely our approach, is that suicide, everybody has a responsibility in their roles, in their workforce development, even in their community to acknowledge that suicide is an issue for not just the construction community but for Australians in general. And it is everybody's business. Everybody has a part to play in our journey towards a suicide-free industry.
Thank you for that, Liam. Now, before you became the CEO of the Mates in Construction WA, you were the senior case manager. Can you explain a little bit to our viewers today what this role involves?
Yeah, so our case managers provide one-on-one individual support for anybody in the industry or their families that might be struggling with life issues or suicide ideation or mental health issues. So we become that key support in the industry once somebody has been identified as struggling. We call them, we go out and see them, we talk through whatever's going on in their lives or their workplace or with their mental health, and we help them to create a safe environment where we can develop plans of action towards helping that person to better their outcomes, to improve their well-being or to address their mental health issues.
Thank you so much. I believe that last year case management attended about over 241 cases.
Yeah, so I believe 241 last year.
Wow. So that was 241 times that an individual was about to take their life.
So about 25% of the people that come through our door have acute thoughts of suicide. So yeah, it's a significant amount. And I guess the concerning thing for us is that we only reach approximately 15 to 20% of the industry, and we're still getting 241 people coming forward saying we need help. So there's still a lot of people out there that we're not able to reach at the current time.
Liam, a question. Could you give me an insight maybe of a story as an example again to relate to it? how you were able to change a mindset of a emergency case, attending as a case manager. I mean, this is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to be careful of confidentiality.
Of course.
But I can recall one specific engagement that I had as a case manager, which involved a gentleman who had been having some significant mental health problems for several years, and had been trying to cover that up and hide that from their family, and going to work just trying to keep that all inside and manage and move on. And eventually it came to a point where the alcohol consumption got out of hand, and he could no longer physically go to work because of the toll he was placing on his body, which was all an attempt to hold it in and manage. During that engagement, I actually was invited to this person's house, and I had the privilege of being able to sit at the table with him and his mother, and I actually helped his mother deconstruct a tool that was going to be used to kill himself while we did that. So through the conversation that we have, through applying our applied suicide intervention skills training model, we're able to negotiate with people and try and get them out of a place where they feel stuck and lost to a place that we can create hope, or an idea that things may get better.
I have another question. The aftercare, the follow-up program. You attended a case.
Yep.
The person is better. You go out, what happens after?
Okay, so we would attend or we would have a conversation with somebody who's having thoughts of suicide, and by the end of that conversation, they're still a far way from better. All we've done is to try and convince a person or work with a person to create hope that we can continue. Following that requires a lot of different interventions. We still need to get that person placed in the right sort of professional support. We still need to coordinate all the social supports and quite often drive some activities that the person might have identified as help for them in sustaining their mental wellbeing and health. So that aftercare can go on for 6, 8, 10 weeks, even 3 or 4 months, as long as the person requires it. And those phone calls come from our case managers to connect with people on a weekly basis, or as often as they need it, to ensure
Yes.
that the progress is maintained.
Yes. And of course families, as
Yes.
you mentioned, they cannot be left out. Yes, because they're so involved in the journey of pain. And how do you address how the families themselves with the education and awareness programs?
Yeah, so I guess the education and the awareness that we deliver, obviously primarily we deliver it to men and women on construction sites, but they're able to take that training and those learnings home. They're able to use that with their families and distribute it throughout their community via their other connection points, whether they be netball clubs, football clubs, social circles,
Yes.
whatever it might be. So that education certainly does transfer into the community, but our support structures like our case management service are also available to the family members of those in the industry. And quite often when somebody is struggling, if there is family around that can support that journey to rehabilitation, to better wellbeing and better outcomes, then including that family in the process, should the person want that to happen, it can be a vital key to success in rewriting someone's story.
Wonderful. Age difference between different, statistics and suicide rate between different age groups. Is there any prime group that is...
So when we look at the statistics, it suggests that young construction workers, that our apprentice, our 16 to 24-year-olds, exhibit higher rates of suicide. But I guess from an organisational perspective, our focus is within anybody within working age, within the industry. Because if you spend too much time focusing on one specific age group, you might have missed someone else along the way. So while the statistics and the evidence are there, and young people do need some new systems and some new supports along the way, it's sort of representative of the national issue in working men aged 16 to 42, I think it is.
Liam, so Mates in Construction WA will be going into the 10th year now.
Yep.
But Mates in Construction is a national organisation. When was Mates in Construction established?
Yes, so Mates in Construction started in 2008 in Queensland. It resulted from an inquiry into deaths in construction that showed some of the statistics that you've spoken about today. Since then, different stakeholders from states have gone over and investigated the program and looked into what Mates in Construction have to offer, and have then been able to take that to separate states. So we now operate in Western Australia, South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, the Northern Territory, and just last year opened our first offices in New Zealand as well.
Congratulations, wonderful. Post-COVID-19, 2021, how do you see the coming future in terms of rates of suicide? Are you preparing for increase?
We're certainly always preparing for an increase because we're trying to reach as many people as we can, and the more people we reach, the more suicides we can prevent. In terms of whether the environment is conducive to a higher rate of suicide, well, there's a lot of research and suggestion that that's probably the case. Certainly for Mates in Construction, the COVID period has been a really difficult one for families. We know that workers have spent significant time away from home as a result of restrictions and testing, and some of our fly-in fly-out workers spent up to 8-10 weeks on site with the isolation. But I think organisations and systems are getting better at managing the COVID-19 restrictions and difficulties that it's presenting, but we certainly have a long way to go yet before I think we're out of the woods in that. It's always difficult to predict what is going to and what isn't going to increase or decrease suicide rates, but we're certainly preparing for more people to be accessing our service as we go forward.
So you prepared for it, or you're in the process of preparing?
Yes. We're always trying to prepare for more people.
And what kind of a research going forward are you concentrating on, or are you planning for next?
So the research that we will focus on in the coming years is around extending the body of research that Mates already does. So Mates hold research as one of the key pillars of our existence, and have been building quite an extensive research base around our program and the industry as we move forward. Certainly in WA, we'd be looking to get a really good understanding of where the mental health baseline is for workers in the construction industry, and certainly moving more into a residential side of the industry as well, which is something that Mates haven't done so much of since we started in WA. So the more research we can do to gain a greater understanding of where the industry's at, so that we can adapt our programs and services to meet those needs, that's what we'll be looking at.
What would be a word of advice for the viewers that are watching us today? Male, female, mothers, fathers, young workers themselves. What would be your word of advice?
I guess my advice, it's really simple. It's learn to engage with people. Learn to have conversations with your friends and your family and your workmates, not just about how they're doing, but how you're doing. The more that we can weave those conversations around mental health, life issues, well-being into the fabric of our existence on site, and at home and in society, I think that's going to lend its way to better outcomes before people get to the point where suicide becomes an option for them.
So in a very simple forms, is the conversation, is to ask for help, it's to share your journey or your worries with somebody.
Absolutely, and to offer help.
Of course, that's you. Now you've got a 24/7 helpline, Mates in Construction WA. What is this 1300 number?
It's 1300 642 111.
Another question, how can general public become involved? Do you have to be in the construction to help Mates in Construction?
No. I mean, obviously our service and our suite of trainings and what we do is targeted at the construction industry, but year long we're holding events to try and raise money and raise the profile of our organisation and things we do. And engaging in those events wherever you can is certainly going to be helpful for us. As I said earlier, the construction industry leaks in so many ways into our general community, our wives, daughters, brothers, girlfriends, teammates, social circles, and any time that you have the availability or the want to come and attend one of our events and get involved in what we do, we'd really welcome that.
Liam, I traditionally give my guest at the end of my show a magic wand.
Okay.
If I was to give you a magic wand and you have two wishes, one for the world and one for yourself, what would be the wish for the world?
It's interesting that you do the magic wand thing, because that's
You don't believe in magic.
It's a technique that we've used in our case management with clients as well. So it's an interesting.
Snap!
Interesting
I didn't know.
Yeah. So I guess for me, it's both from a business and personal perspective. It's to be in a place where we don't have to have the services that we require, because there is self-sustainability, that Mates in Construction can work itself out of business, that organisations in the industry can get to a point where there is the right structures in place, the right education in place, and the change of the stigma and the culture of the industry, that people feel safe and secure, and the need for us is no longer there.
So this is your personal, this is for the world.
It's both, I guess.
It's both, 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Liam, thank you very much. Thanks for being my guest, and I really wish that your wish will come true.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for making a difference.
We'll keep going.